Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Just remember to remain on mute unless it's Q&A or if it opens up the floor for comments. But we have a really exciting presenter today, Reza Karamooz, the CEO of GRADD, and he will be sharing everything that you want to know. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Reza.
All right, so good morning, everybody. And, I'm going to shove like a 2-hour presentation to 30 minutes. So, good morning Wednesday, it's hump day, fire hose of information coming at you. And, you can take the rest of the day off. You can, if you're your own boss, great. If you're not, just say Reza said so. So here we go. We're going to get started. Oops. And that's not what we're going to do on our first thing. You guys can still see my screen. Am I sharing? Because I can't see my own screen.
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so the slide just moved?
Yes, it did.
Okay, good. So about GRADD, founded in 2014, and I had been in aviation before that. I'm an engineer by classic training. And when the drone conversation about being used in civilian side and commercial applications came about, I'm like, this is great because instead of a manned aircraft or helicopter or whatever, that was sent to do things, drone's going to be much cheaper and a lot sometimes faster and sometimes the only option. So 2014 launched the company, but realized very quickly that training is a big part of this thing because, on the civilian side, people have not really known about drones and how do you deal with it and how does that get integrated into the national airspace system and all that stuff. So started the safety awareness training programs in 2015, which seems like 100 years ago. All these things that you're seeing here, you don't have to take notes. It's all on our website. I'll put the link in the chat and all clickable so you can kind of follow through as much as you want on these things. But this is something interesting. June of 2015, we did our first formal safety awareness training. And, I submitted a quote and I said, GRADD is very excited about his partnership with the city of North Las Vegas and looks forward to working together to provide the region with the best safety training, education, and certification programs that are an absolute necessity for the safe integration of unmanned systems into the national airspace system. 7 years ago, that's pretty neat that, to look at and say how far we've come. So the next few slides are literally copy pasted from a presentation that I did in 2014, 8 years ago, before we had Section 333 or Part 107 or any of that, like back in the old days. Copy pasted. So before we had a logo, we didn't have any money to have a logo back then. So what is UAS? So I was trying to educate whoever I was doing the presentations for. And this UAS is UAV, the unmanned aerial vehicle, plus the stuff they hang off of it. Flying it by itself is just an RC plane flying for fun. But when you hang the sensors, now you got something. But this one here is really a neat slide. When several technologies collide, a perfect storm forms. By the way, forgive the ugliness of the slide. It's a copy paste from 2014. I wasn't really a PowerPoint person at the time, I guess. Maybe I'm better now. When several technologies collide, a perfect storm forms for life-changing and disruptive innovations. Add robotics, sensors, software, modular hardware, and we will have an automated mass of helper drones that can deliver packages and items. This is 8 years ago. Finally, I think we're getting there. We're delivering some packages and items soon or happening in some places. Provide pest detection and crop dusting for agricultural use. Inspect power lines and pipelines. Clean high-rise windows and solar panels. I think that will become a bigger thing in the future. Broadcast sporting events. That's going to happen soon, I guess, and the list goes on. And then I had this ugly slide in there, search and rescue applications. And I don't know if you saw it on the news, but a dog was rescued in England with a sausage hanging off a drone. So they, because there was an unsafe area for humans to go and retrieve the animal, they just kind of flew a drone over with a sausage hanging off of it. You can Google that and read about it. So, finally 8 years from then, this kind of thing happened. And then maybe in certain cases, air, water, soil, and other hazardous sampling can be performed by a little sensor fly drone thing. Who knows? It can go land on there, grab some samples, come back, or maybe even real-time reported on the sort of edge computing capabilities that will in the future come our way. And this is the last ugly slide. Fender bender, don't call 911. What if instead, you could just launch these little drones You know, they go and take pictures and survey the fender bender accident and just report it so you have some documentation. Back in 2015, there was no, in fact, there wasn't any Part 107 or certification program to become a drone pilot under the FAA's rules. So what they had is an exemption to a rule that didn't exist. So Section 333 is what it was called. And the first exemption was granted on September 25 of 2014. We filed for ours a few months after that, and we were awarded our Section 333 by the end of 2015. And you can click on all these things, you know, when you get the link, and you can actually go type in. Only 5,500 or so organizations got a Section 333, and we had two of those, one for our nonprofit, one for GRADD. Now, since 2015, we've been optimizing the creation of 3D models using photos and scanners and satellite imagery and DSLR and whatever. And so it started in 2015. I put a deadline of 2088. I think by then, much of all of this will be just at your fingertips and no one has to optimize or figure it out anymore. So here is a model of a Fiat Spider. I took 758 pictures of this back in like 2000, I think it was 16 or I don't know, 17 or something, 758 DSLR images. Everybody can see this model? Yep, okay. So, yep. You know, imagine, I mean, I can ask some questions here. So let's look here and say, what do you see in that crack over there? Right here, that little red spot, what do you think that is?
Coke can.
It's a Coke can. So imagine, you know, we digitally preserve whatever objects are important to us for whatever reason, and for eternity. Like this model is going to look like this for the next, you know, till forever and ever, and a day after that. So it's a perfect model, exactly to size, shape, form, color, including this wire that's hanging off the bottom, including the tread on the tire and the concrete below the car. So it's very interesting because we can preserve things this way. So in 2016 and 17, we really went all in on how do we 3D model things in the fastest way to create the most high detail, accurate digital twin of an object. And we used all kinds of different photogrammetry software to do that. And in 2016, towards the end of the year, we were contacted by Intel and they said, hey, can you guys create some curriculum for us for 3D modeling, 3D design, 3D visualization? So we did. And we facilitated that in 2017 for them and trained their trainers. Now, here's a 3D model of the biggest casino on the Las Vegas Strip, Caesar's Palace. Now, we didn't fly a drone over this thing. We 3D modeled it using satellite imagery. And we did this about, I guess, about 4 years ago. Satellite imagery is a lot better today. So I'm guessing if we went through and did it again, the model would come out even with higher detail, which I'm already, you know, every time I look at this, I'm impressed by the detail of this 3D model, strictly from satellite imagery. Now, you know, we know a thing or two about how to extract data and create a model. So, you know, but still being able to create a 3D model that can now be used for all kinds of things, because we can reverse this into a CAD model, you know, if they wanted to use it for renovating a portion of this thing, or to pull it into video games, or to animate the thing, put cars moving down the streets. You know, there's software that we can do that with. But this is really neat to be able to have a model like this. Of course, you know, we can also 3D print a digital twin of this thing, you know, small version, but a really interesting application on how to create a 3D model of that. In 2017, we 3D modeled the interior of a very VIP 777, Boeing 777. So we're going to take a quick look at that. So this is, well, let's look at the cockpit. So let's say we were doing some familiarization training for new pilots that are going to get to sit in the cockpit of this 777. This is kind of neat. So if they, if you can come in here and just kind of look around and look up and down and, you know, zoom in on, it's super high detail. So you can zoom in on whatever you want and look at the instruments and all of the controls and everything else. And then you can walk through the cabin. Let's just go ahead and do that real quick. So this is, like I said, very VIP. This right here, let's turn back around and go back to the restaurant area, dining room, I should say. It also has a, sorry about the clunkiness a little bit. So here's the bar and, you know, some dining room tables. So it's very, very VIP. It has 88 seats. They're all configured exactly the same. They all have 24-inch touch screens, and all of the seating turns into beds, so you can, you know, squeeze in there. So anyway, very interesting to be able to do this. Now, what we can do is from any of these 3D models, we can extract a floor plan or measurements or whatever, and also share them, you know, across the web. So let's go on to the next slide. So in 2018 and 19, we said, okay, now you can create all these 3D models. How do you share them with other people? How do you visualize them personally on your mobile device? Or how do you become immersed in the model? What if I want to put on the goggles and, you know, virtual reality goggles and walk inside that 777? So I can just kind of look around as if I'm standing physically inside it. What if I want to sit in the cockpit and look around instead of doing on my screen? I just want to be inside. Well, so we created these different environments. One is called GRADD AR. So it's an app, and you can download it for your iOS or your Android. And with GRADD AR, it's AR, so augmented reality. With augmented reality, reality shows up first, and you augment it with something. So let's say I have an augmented reality app that can, I can point it towards the landing gear of an airplane. And just by looking at it, it can tell me what plane that is and give me all the specs, PDFs, videos, all kinds of different things. So that's augmented reality. So that's what GRADD AR is. It's augmented reality app that enhances what your reality is with other information. GRADD VR is virtual reality. So with GRADD VR, we could go inside that 777 if you have VR goggles, or you could do it on your device. Or we could inspect a part, or we could inspect a crime scene, or we could inspect anything we want as if you're there. In high detail, all the stuff is there. And you can, even when you have the goggles on in our app, in our immersive environment, you can actually have controls in your hand. You can grab a pen and draw a circle, and all of us right now, we're inside one of our GRADD VR environments, which we could do from anywhere, anytime. We could be having this meeting inside GRADD VR at the location of our choice. So let's say that all of us are involved in a project where we're building something, but we want to go to the actual construction site in progress and visit it and talk about it, walk around, make comments about it, show each other, hey, have you seen, what's going on over here on the site? We could do that. So instead of having a meeting like this, where we all have these fake backgrounds and whatever else, we can actually physically be somewhere cool where it's relevant to our discussion. So that's really a neat thing, maybe something of the future. This right here is the engine from my favorite airplane called the SR-71. This is a J-58 engine that the SR-71 used two of. And I 3D modeled this at the Museum of Flight. They have this thing, as you can see, sitting on that rack, not very well lit, and you can't walk all the way around it. So it was a bit of a challenge. This is a 3D model generated with just 199 DSLR images. Now, this model, I took the images for it about 7 years ago. So, maybe today the images would come out a little bit better with the technology for DSLR, but overall, pretty neat to be able to 3D model this engine. I don't know if there's another 3D model of a J-58 engine, but I think this one is super cool. And it's my favorite plane. And if you haven't studied how the J-58 engine worked, or the SR-71, how it did 3+ Mach, cruising speed, You ought to take a look. It's super cool. Thank God for all those engineers, and thank God for Kelly Johnson for this one. So anyway, let's move forward. Now, this is a 3D model of the Reno Air Race hangar that we did in 2019. So this is during race week, so it's packed with these race planes. So, you can just walk through here. And, if a plane catches your fancy, you can just, go in here and zoom in on it. Super detail of it. So you can go outside. And in every one of our big 3D models, we always hide one scan where I'm there with our team that was doing the scan that particular day. So that's a kind of a trick. There's 200 and some scans, so it's hard to find that one. So in 2019 and 2020, so 2019, we're like, okay, this is great. You can create 3D models. You can see them on your app. You can see it in our cloud. But what if I want to do measurements? I want to measure stuff. I want to send it to you and say, hey, check it out, do some measurements. Let's verify that everything that we think is supposed to be is the way it is. So we created Last 3D. LAS is a file type for 3D point clouds. That's .las. So Last 3D basically is that. It's a way to visualize and measure and inspect and share 3D point clouds, 3D models, 3D objects across the web on any device. In 2020, COVID hit, and we had already created a Part 107 training program, but it was in person and more the old style. And we said, wait a minute, everyone lost their jobs. A lot of people are kind of just hunkered down. Let's just launch our online platform, which we had created for about 1.5 years. We hadn't launched it. So in 2020, about 2 years ago, we launched our online curriculum for Part 107 training. And we offered for free to all military families, public safety officers, high school students, and high school educators across the country. And to date, we've had, I don't know, nearly probably 800 plus people register, and many go through and take the FAA exam. And we have a 100% passing rate for anyone who completes our program to pass the FAA Part 107. But we teach a lot more than just how to pass the FAA Part 107. So this right here is Last 3D. This is an online, cloud-based environment where you can take, in this case, this is a retention pond here, near Vegas. Flew a drone over it, took about 200 pictures, 3D modeled it, and we can immediately start doing some really cool analysis on, depth of it, how much water would it take to breach the top brim, all kinds of cool stuff, all online. Without any special software on your computer, you could do the exact same thing. This is all clickable, so when you get it, just click on it and start playing with it. This is a 3D model, the only one we know of along the Las Vegas Strip, other than Google doing their stuff. So this is the Bellagio Fountains. We did this in 2020 when the Las Vegas Strip was shut down for 75 days, which is absolutely unbelievable that, casinos were shut down for 75 days. It's never happened in the history of the city. They didn't know how to lock the front door because they didn't have any locking mechanism because they never thought about that option. Like we have to lock the front door someday. So, but anyway, it was kind of an interesting and strange time. There was no one on the sidewalks, obviously. This was early in the morning. We started at about 4 in the morning when it was dark, started our scanning. And then we flew drones and everything else. We had filed all the right stuff. There's me looking up at the sky at the drone flying over the Las Vegas Strip. So this is very cool. Again, all clickable when you get it. Have some fun walking along the strip with no one except our team and some security people and police that showed up to figure out what we're doing. But anyway, 2020, we did I had been working with the state of Ohio, University of Cincinnati and others to bring this kind of technology and visualization, 3D modeling to their aerospace engineering department and so on. So we got hooked up with the Ohio Attorney General's office and did a mock 2-vehicle crash. They did all their traditional training with the laser scanners on the ground and roll tape, and they trained all of their officers with their standard training. But they said, hey, why don't you come out and do your technology, and we'll just kind of coincide and see how that goes. There's a white paper that'll be published that's clickable, downloadable, and this is the 3D model that we created from that crash. Again, with just only 200 and some drone images. I mean, we were flying over the scene while the officers were on the ground doing, their normal business. And so this is the 3D model. This entire model is created strictly from drone data, which is absolutely incredible because if you look at other drone data of crash scenes, I would argue you're not going to see too many that have this kind of detail and clarity down to the ground level of the sides of the car. Cars are very difficult to model, and if you don't, we flew kind of low, only about 50 feet above ground, so we had the opportunity to do that, which was very helpful. So then we said, okay, what if we could GPS locate 3D models wherever we want on Earth? GPS locate a 3D model wherever you want. So in any one of wherever you are right now, what if you had an app and today you wanted to inspect the mechanical part someone's designing for you, and they can place it right on your desktop digitally. How cool is that? So it's right in front of you as if it's physically there. So we created this in 2021, last year, we created this app called Disco 3D, Discover 3D. And one of the features it has is GPS location of digital assets. So you see an SR-71 on the screen there. This is at the Smithsonian Museum, little outreach center down near the airport out there, Washington Dulles Airport. They have this beautiful building, the Stephen Esterhazy Center, they call it. It's a massive, beautiful building. They have an SR-71 parked on the ground. They don't have one floating in the air like this one. That one is digital. So we GPS located digital airplanes at that museum. So when you walk inside that museum, and if you have our app, you start looking at inside the museum and our digital airplanes show up. How cool is that? So that SR-71 actually is our SR-71 floating inside the museum. So and we've done now this for the Reno air races. We have done it, for all sorts of different sort of applications like that. Also in 2021, we took one of our highest detail models, probably the best one we've ever done. It's a mansion down in Naples, Florida, 4 acres, $70 million mansion. And they wanted the most advanced security system installed. So the company out of Europe that has this technology got us to 3D model this mansion. And what you're seeing here is the simulation of all their LiDAR, infrared, and all these other sensors they can install at any location that literally has no blind spots. And in real time tracks the intruder. Doesn't matter what the intruder is doing. Doesn't matter if it's day, night, fog, rain, it doesn't care because it's got LiDAR, radar, infrared, and it takes all of that sensor input and locates the intruder. And of course, you can write all kinds of different algorithms to say, well, up to 6 p.m., that's not an intruder. But if a person is crawling on the ground anytime, that's an intruder. Or if they enter or breach the property from this location 24/7, that's an intruder. So this is how you can create for any kind of facility. Imagine having this kind, especially these days, with all the issues, security issues we're having. Imagine 24/7, a system that does not take its eye off the intruder. It doesn't do it because it has so much sensor input that at any point, anytime, anywhere on that property, the intruder is tracked. And then you can zoom in on the intruder. You'll see that in a second. And you can see on the bottom left corner of the screen how the scanner, which scanner is picking up that intruder at that moment. Absolutely mind-boggling. This is incredible. And I know I'm running out of time, so we're going to wrap this thing up. The entire presentation, you're going to have it. So we took 3,000 images of this building. 2,000 of them were done in autonomous flights that we designed. And then 1,000, we had our pilot hand fly to make sure we got all the nooks and crannies so we could do this incredible 3D model. Every time I look at it, I'm blown away. There's only one company that has this software to do these kinds of installations and simulations and design the final physical system. They're out of Europe, and Leica Geosystems has purchased them. So, and we are Leica viewers. So anyway, so and we get to our final slide. of this portion. And then the rest of the slides have to do with our STEM education stuff that we do, which is absolutely incredible. This slide here, so towards the end of last year, after having trained some of their officers, we were selected as the official Part 107 training partner of the North Texas Public Safety Unmanned Response Team. And now it looks like they want to take our program to the entire state of Texas for all their public safety folks, which will be fantastic. And we do a lot of other things with STEM education and bringing STEM and aviation to schools, elementary, middle, high schools. We've won some national championships, some of the teams that we have sponsored and started. And there's a couple of videos on here. We're not going to go through all that, but they're fun to watch. And there's a bunch of links. We designed a race guide last year for the Reno Air Races. This is the first race guide they've ever had, even though it was the 57th year of the races. But this is something we did in-house. All the pictures were taken by me, most of them. And we designed the entire thing, and I'll let the pages load. But you can take a look at this on your time. There's tons of barcodes to scan. All of our apps are in here. Very, very cool. This is a 3D printed by, we have all these different cool things that the kids can do in our STEM zone at the Reno Air Races. We have 3D printing pens and all kinds of flight simulators and so on. And this cadet did the Reno Air Races SR-71. And I was super impressed by that. And here he is grown up in 2021, and Cadet Johnson, and he saw that I put that SR-71 in the race guide, and I, told everybody, hey, one of our visitors did this, and he rose his hand, I was the one. I'm like, cool, that is you, but I didn't want to put your information because I didn't have your okay for that. He says, yeah, put it in. So here he is, Cadet Johnson did that, and of course you see all the students that show up. So this. And this is the final punchline. We introduce aviation and STEM to youth. What's your superpower? There you go.
Great.